Hello everyone, welcome again to another influencer series here on FashionWeekOnline.com. I'm sitting here with our honored guest, Mr. Eddie Mullon, who single-handedly has changed the Fashion Week industry for the better with Fashion GPS. If you haven't heard of Fashion GPS, we're going to get into the journey of Mr. Eddie Mullon and how he started it, and it's really an interesting story, so I'm happy that he's here to share it with you. And just to let you know, a side note, this is literally 3 days before Fashion Week starts, so he took out his time to actually be with us. So we're definitely pleased, and we thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So first question is, let's go back to the beginning, as we were talking off camera. You said you had 3 companies when you first started?
Yeah, 3 companies.
And none of which were Fashion GPS yet?
No, they weren't, no.
Okay, so you had Laptop MD, that's the one I really know about.
Yeah. And it's still going around. I actually sold that to somebody back in, I think it was like 2004.
Okay. And with Laptop MD, you were fixing laptops, you said? Well, fixing anything, and you got to meet a lot of New Yorkers and celebrities.
Yeah.
Right? So with Laptop MD, did you have an idea in your mind already that you wanted to do more, or you were just you were in survival mode until something better came along?
Actually, that's a really good way of putting it. I was in survival mode. So I just moved from the UK here in 2000. I worked for a company for about a year, and it was a very big, large company. And it really frustrated me because a lot of the time I was just spending time just having meetings, and just one day I can actually be productive and do something. Because I'm a very hands-on person. So I actually ended up leaving, and I had to find something to do. So I actually, I was actually writing software when I was 12 years old. Back in
So you were a late bloomer?
Yeah, no. I think I was like born with a computer. And at the time it was a computer called Sinclair, it was a ZX81.
Oh yeah.
And amazingly now, like on these phones you have like gigabytes, you used to have 1K. And those days you had to actually write your own software to play a video game.
Wow.
So that got me passionate, and really that's kind of the early history, but I've always been very close to technology, and that's why I started Laptop MD. For me, I wanted to do something that I could roll up my sleeves, and I found that fixing computers was a quick way of doing that. But amazingly, you're right, I actually met so many people in New York City, because for me it was just, let me just get the job done. I was very good at it. So it was fixing computers, maybe setting up your email, your wireless. I was really like a technical consultant, but I met everyone from, at the time, I actually met Seal, Heidi Klum, Carl McLachlan.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to start fixing laptops because I need to meet some of these people.
It was a great time, and I met some amazing people, and really gave me a good foundation. Right.
So let me take you back one more time. You were mentioning the Sinclair. Do you remember the Commodore VIC-20?
I had all of them.
What? You had the 64? If you were 64, you were everything.
Commodore Amiga. I grew up on,
Oh, I had a Commodore VIC-20, and I remember it was so huge. And when I pressed in 2 + 2 and it gave me 4, I thought that was the best thing ever. I'm like, what? I can actually do math on this? So did you ever fix those, or did you take those computers apart and kind of
that's what I did even as a kid. I actually have this crazy funny story. A bit younger, I don't know what age, I must have been like around 10 or 11. I was so fascinated about it, I used to just break everything apart. So
I'm sure your parents were happy with that.
No, I'll tell you, this is a crazy story. So I actually decided, I was looking at the TV and I just wanted to know how this thing worked. So I actually decided to go, while it's on, behind it, unscrewed it, and started just poking around. And of course, you know what happened?
Oh my goodness.
I got electrocuted.
I'm glad you're still here.
I got thrown back.
Exactly. I'm glad that.
And actually, at the time I had hair, it was just like.
Oh, so that's what happened. So after that, it was like, no more hair.
Yeah. So I've always loved technology. I just always break things apart, and wanting. And I feel like that's what happened with the fashion industry. I had that same experience where I was so fascinated,
So when did the fashion bug hit you? Or did it hit you?
No, it didn't hit me. It happened by chance, and it's actually a really great story because when I had Laptop MD, I used to go around and post flyers, and a publicist at KCD, actually at the time I didn't know what KCD was, it was just another company, brought me in, and she was frustrated because she couldn't get a computer fixed for several weeks, and I was able to do it within like 20 minutes.
Oh, so basically they
so
fired
happy.
their IT team.
Yeah.
They basically fired them after that. They were like, "You're fired, Eddie. Let's go." Wow.
No, I contributed. No, it wasn't, but I contributed to that because I'm sure he was really busy. It was a big, huge company.
Right.
And then I just got referred, through the company, and from fixing, the computer, I ended up doing a lot more for them.
Did you ever go full time with them? Were you full time?
No. Actually, I had laptops, so I was servicing, other, companies, people around the city. I actually enjoyed it at the time.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. So after the KCD, was it during that time or seeing their kind of infrastructure where you said there has to be an easier way to facilitate what these people are doing?
That's not what actually happened. So with everything that I was doing, actually Rashna at the time, and she's still there, and a very good friend, she asked me, she goes, "Eddie, you're so good at, computers and technology. We have a closet and it's a mess. Can you figure something out?" So I said, "Sure." So I actually ended up building a system. I think it took me about 2 or 3 weeks.
So it took you a long time.
Yeah, that was actually a long time.
3 weeks? Good grief, I'm about to take you to my closet.
Yeah,
Lord.
It was a very simple system, and what it actually did was allow them to print barcodes, attach them to the samples. So when they're sending them out, they're not spending 40 minutes handwriting every single piece and the detail.
And itemizing.
They just scan, it prints out the delivery, and it will be done in 2 minutes. So for me, that was, and I actually didn't realize when I built it, it's just like, I saw what they're doing, and then when they use it, it was just like, this is incredible. I can actually do this, and especially what really touched me at the time was, just watching the interns, because really it was the interns, you had people in the back room, they just started giggling. It's just like, oh my, because they could see how much time it's going to save them, and it not only did that, it also tracked where it was going, so when they need to get the samples back,
they knew exactly
where it was. So it was a very basic sample tracking, and really that was the beginning.
Now, did you call it Fashion GPS at that time? It was just
I think I called it like Track 12 or Track. I couldn't figure
a good name.
It actually took about 2 or 3 years to find the name Fashion GPS.
Really?
And a lot of thinking. Sometimes
because when I first heard it, I was like, this is ingenious. Like, how did he get that name? And I always wanted to know how Fashion GPS came about, the name itself.
Yeah.
Was it just because of the GPS navigation, and you kind of say, you know what, Fashion GPS?
Actually, you got it. You kind of got it there. And I think, for me, GPS is so instrumental to as well as technology. Without GPS, everything around us is, based around on that now. So I just started thinking about technology. What was the thing that's really impacted us hugely? It was like GPS and tracking and location and everything that GPS does. And I think when you say GPS, you instantly know it's technology.
Right.
And I go, it's fashion, GPS. And as soon as I put the two together, I was just, where's the .com available? And it was available. And at the time, and I know there's other companies now that are calling them something, I think, like Celebrity GPS, and I see that. But back then, I believe I was the first that thought of that, and I created Fashion GPS, and
So now let me ask you, how did it get from Track 12 to Fashion GPS? How did you start expanding on just that technology of tracking the closets to now where it facilitated invitations and everything with the shows?
That took many years. I feel like, almost 15 years to get to where we are now.
Wow.
And for me, it was really a discovery, so I really feel like I was a kid in a candy store, so from seeing a sample and what I could do there, and then when I started to look at other things, like, what does it take to just put on a fashion show?
Right.
And prior to technology or, Fashion GPS, just sending out invitations, they'll be biked, they'll be printed, the seating, they'll basically have a big table with stickies, they take a picture, they take it to the copier, they scale it down, and if they've got another office, they'll fax it over. It was just very...
It was mayhem.
So after all of that, I actually went back to Rashna case. I said, just give me a chance. I know I can, streamline event management.
Wow.
She agreed, and we spent about a year just really understanding, how that process really took place. The seating and everything that's involved, and built the technology around it. And it was very basic at the beginning. It was you can manage your guest list, you can send electronic invitations, and really at the time that was the first that was I believe, I know there was other, but in fashion I would say, and a very basic seating chart as well, and that just kept it evolving. So from for me it was just, I started to understand a sample ends up at a fashion show to be showed, people come, and then I started to think about, there's this community of people that have relationships, and there's nothing that is really tying them together. Then I felt about putting on or starting a community, and that's GPS Radar now.
Right.
To really centralize all the events, not only in New York but London,
Milan, and
Paris. And it was challenging at the time because with the different agencies, obviously they're competing.
Right.
But for me, I could see that it's the same contact list.
Right.
And it took about 2 years of a lot of conversations to have the major agencies and brands agree to doing it. And when they did, that's when we launched Radar, which then integrated, which is the community.
Right.
And it was just more of a discovery. So, where, after you go to a show, now you can RSVP very easily with an app, and you can log on and see all the shows that you went to.
As I just did a few minutes ago.
Okay. That's great.
I literally just, I was just showing the cameraman, I just did one. I was like, see, this is why I love it right here.
We had an opportunity to partner with Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And I don't know if you remember Brian Park, it was always...
Do I remember it?
Yeah. Okay.
Don't crush my heart. I loved Brian Park. I loved it. I loved it just because
there was a good
location.
energy, and I was there. I used to stand outside, back before we were doing events, and I actually felt, I want to be in there, because this is really exciting. But I could see
we were probably standing side by side, not knowing each other, looking at it like one day.
Yeah, and I could see the mess, and it's just, and I felt that we could actually help streamline a fashion week, and that's where we partnered with Mercedes-Benz, and that's where we introduced the kiosks and other methods to just
the print out.
Really, at the end of the day, like, you guys are busy, you want to go to a show, you want to organize yourself. And you want to get to the next one, and I was just looking for a solution to do that. So what we did here, and partnered up, it worked out really well. It was a success. And I actually remember at the time when we were just about to launch, and it was, I'm sure it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. My team was still developing. And it was like a feature film.
My hands are literally sweating now, thinking about how nervous I would have been.
And there's people on the door, and then we hit the button, and everything booted up, and it just went, it's okay.
Oh my God!
So and it was a success. It actually worked. But we had our kinks. Have to be, technology. There is a process, but it worked out really well. But the same thing. If we think about, Paris, it's done differently. They don't want kiosks. They don't want to use phones. So what we decided to do is actually put RFID chips in the invitation. So now a lot of the shows in Europe, you can check in by just walking your invitation, but our technology is acknowledging that you've actually turned up. And it registers on the iPad so that they can guide you to the seat. And all we want to do is, for me, is how can we quickly get you in, watch the show, experience it, and come out.
As little fuss as possible.
Yeah. And then the final iteration of that was, you go into a show to basically experience, but then you don't have the content.
Right.
So now we actually deliver the looks
right
after the show, within half an hour to an hour, to the app, so that then it goes 360. You've seen the show, you can favorite what you like. Maybe you've seen 10 shows. At the end of the week, you can then log in and you can see all the shows. Which ones did you miss? But then you can also request a sample, and then it goes 360 back to the sample tracking. And then I thought, okay, now I've kind of completed the circle.
Right.
But that took a long time.
Right. You know what? You mentioned something when you went back to KCD, and you were asking her to give you a shot at streamlining everything. It's so funny that they didn't try to say, okay, well, since we basically allowed you to do this, we want a piece of it now. They never approached you about trying to, like, let's say, get like 20% of the company and say, well, we helped you do this. You know, this should be part of ours as well. That's what I was shocked about.
Just going back, it wasn't just KCD. It was, as you know, we worked with KCD, and then it was Bismarck Phillips. Then right after it was Donna Karan, and then there was a lot of brands. And you know, people ask me, how did you build this? I didn't build Fashion GPS. I just executed. I listened to the industry. I listened to my clients. So really, at the end of the day, it's a fashion industry. You know, all my clients built this. I was just executing it, and you know, making it together. So I think at the end of the day, when I look at that, it's everyone really contributed, and I think that's where I became really passionate about the industry, because I was giving something and they were getting something, because they're frustrated, and now, you know, if they're running a report or checking in, it's a lot easier. And I'm sure if you ask a lot of them, you know, clients on their end, you know, what has GPS done for them, or even on the media side, like, you know, the people. So all I've thought about is like, how can I make this, how can I connect the industry, make it efficient, and not just about connecting like LinkedIn. You know, I usually just connect with people, and then nothing really, I'm just connected. And I know it actually has other uses, but for me it's like, how can I connect and make that useful? You know, get you RSVP, you know, research new brands, and I think that's where we're going at. And
that's what I use it for. Researching new brands. I love it. I love it.
And we're covering brands worldwide, and it's not only look images, we put product images, we've got another product now, GPS styles, that allows you to upload you know, your brand. And it's really, to me, also what's important, because the company was organically grown as I started to understand it. What we do as a company, we help brands launch their product to the marketplace, from concept to consumer, and that's, you know, really important for.
Now, for people that are watching and they have a brand, do they try to contact you to get on Fast? Like as far as introducing them to the marketplace, can a brand contact you and say, well, we want to be on Fashion GPS, or is it kind of organically you discover them and you reach out to them and say, we want to feature you?
Yeah, it's possible. We have a sales team now. And also, you know, for me, I'm passionate about emerging brands, because I understand how difficult it is. You're building a business, you know, you're creating beautiful things, and you've got to manage your contact. It's a lot, and especially if you have a team of 2 or 3. So for us, what's important is we provide the technology, you know. So for them, if they're using our stars, they can upload. So instead of printing a lookbook, you can upload your collection, and that gives you access to our 33. It's about 33, 35, I haven't checked the last numbers, of our community, and instantly they're getting access to that. So as you're saying, you go on there to discover new brands. On their end, they're actually getting, you know, who's looking at it, so that they can contact you. Say, oh, you're interested in my brand, would you like a sample? So it's really a way.
That was ingenious.
That was ingenious. No, and that's why it's just like, how can we help on both ends? So it's helping the influencers, it's helping the media, it's also helping the brands. And we just want to be the connector, but with smart technology. You
are the connector. It's not one to be anymore.
No, I still feel that there's a lot to do.
So let's get into that. What do you feel? Because and this is why probably the Lord didn't bless me with the technology gene of trying to do something like this. I would think we've reached our plateau. Like, there's nothing more we can do. What else do you see for Fashion GPS, and just overall, what else do you see it expanding into?
There is so much. So I don't know if you heard, we just recently announced that we merged with a company. So
merged?
Yeah, we merged. Yeah, it was just announced in Women's Wear Daily.
In WWD. Okay. That's all right. We love WWD. They're not competitors to us. We love everybody.
No, we're on TechCrunch, and it's actually, you know, great, because what was important to me was when we look at the world, it's all about digital. It's all about influencers, and with that, there's a company that we've been competing with in France called Agure. And I actually met with the CEO there back in June last year, and we started discussing. And what's interesting, they were doing sample tracking, but they didn't really focus on fashion. They were a lot broader, and they were doing influencer marketing. So that's always been on my mind for the last 3 years, but we're just doing so much. So part of the merger was to ultimately be able to provide a platform for the brand, for the agency, so that not only can you be efficient in what you do with sample management, event management, your digital assets, but also how can you reach the right influencer? Because everyone in today's world is either on Instagram, you've got Twitter, and there's so much out there.
Yes,
and it's very noisy, and that's what this technology does. So the combination is to take the two and be able to provide something that is so compelling, and really at the end of the day, it's my passion. How can I help the designer be able to ultimately reach the target audience?
Gotcha.
And the influencer influences the consumer,
right?
And that's what the technology does, but then tie that back into your event. So our platform, Events GPS, not only does full-blown shows like Victoria's Secret, or
you mean Victoria's Secret that's on CBS, Victoria's Secret?
Yeah, they use
okay, so
Events
next
GPS.
year, can you just slide me in as a fashion GPS member, because I need to go to the Victoria's
I can't do that. You've got to go through the right channel. You should talk to KCD.
Oh, man.
The producer. Yeah,
So that's officially now launched, and people can actually start reaching out to that. Like, say there's an influencer. Say I'm an influencer. Could I reach out to Events GPS and say, listen, I just want to be in your system, so if brands want to contact me?
So that's exactly what we're doing. Is currently, when you put on an event or a press day or any event, it could be inviting 10 people or 1,000 people. You're using your own contacts. What we can now do is, I'm launching, say, for example, a red dress, and I want to reach influencers that write about red dresses right across the internet. And I think this is what's important in today's world. You can invite somebody to a physical show, which should not go away. It's an experience. It's something that's very important to the fashion industry. But you can also invite people that can't attend because maybe they're in Japan or worldwide. And that's what we're looking to do. You know, you may have somebody in Japan that loves writing about red dresses as an influencer that can reach consumers in Japan. And that's what we want to do. So when you put on your event, you're inviting, say, 1,000 people. We'll then, in the future, be able to, once we integrate that, maybe you should be inviting these because they're closer to your brand. And it's an influencer that you should be working with. And not only for events, but for our GPS samples, our GPS styles. Right. It's just a way that we can really streamline.
Because influencers are huge right now. Like,
yeah, they are, but it's very hard to find the right influencer. And there could be a small bracket of, say, 5,000 really high-end influencers. Like Amy Song, and you got
Olivia.
Yep. But you also have thousands, I would say maybe hundreds of thousands of upcoming, and that's what we can track.